big, it's bold, it's American inspired. This week it's Hyundai's Palisade SUV. It seems strange that SUVs in Australia are the biggest sellers. Of the top 10, most of them are SUVs or utes, the pickup utes. The Hyundai Palisade, it's a simple range. There's just two models, the base model and this Highlander. They all come with all-wheel drive. They all come with an 8-speed automatic. And you get a choice of two engines, a V6 or this twin-turbo diesel. It's just 2.2 litres, but it's got 147 kilowatts of power. Now you might think that's not a lot of power to pull something that weighs over 2,000 kilos, but it's plenty. Believe me, we've had it on the highway, we've had it around town, and we've even done a little bush track work. It was very light bush track work. It's got drive modes for on-road and off-road. There's a big aggressive grille and this incredibly complex light arrangement. It's LEDs with high beam assist, that's one of the many safety features. And a lot of people have said they didn't really like the super aggressive stance of the front, but I think it looks really cool. From the side, you see how really big this thing is. As I approach, the mirrors swing out eventually, and I can lock and unlock the car because I've got the key in my pocket. But it's got a trick, watch this. It's got an auto open function, and that'll work just by standing here at the back of the car or by pressing and holding the button. Sometimes the standing at the back of the car doesn't always work. Palisade also comes in 7 or 8 seats. This one's got 8 seats, and you can see I've got one of them up just here. It still leaves quite a bit of boot space. It's not huge, but it still leaves enough to put in a couple of suitcases perhaps, certainly a couple of overnight bags. There are electric buttons all over the place in the back that you can lower the second row of seats if you want. There's also 16 cup holders, USB points all over the place, including for the third row. Plus the second row has a huge amount of space. It is positively palatial back here. There's some shades just in case you want a bit of privacy. There's some air conditioning ducts back here as well. The air conditioning controls, the heated seat controls, and another 180 watt 12 volt power outlet. And behind the front seats, there's another couple of those USB points I was talking about. The front is an absolute triumph. It's a mix of cool and class, but it does have some really cool things, like a 2-piece sunroof. Only the front part opens up, but you can open both bits, which I quite like. You can also flip the back of this front panel. It's just a manual kind of cover, but the headlining is absolutely delicious. It's so soft, it's like really fine velour. Now along the front, we've got some genuine fake artificial timber trim. It looks like the deck of a fine yacht, a fine sailing yacht, something from the 30s. But when you touch it, there's no doubt that it's plastic. The driver's seat has heating, or should I say both front seats have heating and cooling, and there's 2 memories for the driver. The mirrors dip when you reverse, and the center console looks pretty good. It's incredibly wide, and it's set out quite clearly. There's a little door here to cover up the cup holders and other bits and bobs. And the clever thing about the cup holders is that they fold away like so when not in use, and it gives you this entire area. The center console bin is enormous. You just push this button to get your cup holders back when you've not got something in the way. I can put my cans and things in there. Along here is the control unit for the heated steering wheel and the seat heating and cooling. Above that is the camera, and you can see that you get a top-down 360-degree view and a view towards the rear. You can also tell it that you want the rear, the front, or front top-down. I quite like. Oh, and the sides, you can see both sides of the car. Now that's the other interesting thing. This is the unit that is from that Genesis that we reviewed last week. So 10.25 inches for this. Driver instruments are traditional dials, but between them is a 7-inch LCD. And that has that nifty indicator thing. So if I indicate right, you'll see that a picture has come up, and that's right along the right side of the car. If I indicate left, it's the left side of the car. Now, back to the infotainment system. We've got big one-touch direct select buttons here for map, nav, radio, media, hazard flashes, of course, the seek, the special star button, which is a favorite of any kind, and the setup. And you go into it and it is nice and clear. This is the latest generation. Of course, it comes with Apple Carplay, which is what I've got set up at the moment, and that's by cable. Some of the Hyundais and Kias have wireless. This center console is 2-level. There's a tray under that where there's another USB and power outlet. There's another power outlet in here with a USB, and that's where I've got my Navman plugged into. You've also got brake hold, don't forget brake hold. The air conditioning is tri-zone, so there's a zone for the back and one each for the front seat passengers, and the transmission selection, which is by button. So I've selected drive and I've got it in smart drive mode. Now there's no trouble getting this big hulking brute around these incredibly narrow city streets. Despite its weight, the all-wheel drive system means that the wheels never lose grip, and that's one thing I like very much. You'd think that parking this would be difficult, but it just isn't. I think it would be probably almost impossible to park without those cameras. This really is quite big. Acceleration is brisk, but not neck snapping. And that's good. You don't want neck snapping in something this big. The sound system, which of course I can't show you because YouTube will have a fit, is Infinity. It is really quite good though. A friend of mine who's a bit of a sound aficionado, Jason, said he didn't think much of it. It was a bit sloppy. To augment the driver's instruments, there's also a large heads-up display. Now you've seen what it's like around town, let's get out onto the highway. Now that was the system telling me that I'm trying to change lanes and there's somebody beside me. Well, I could see there was someone beside me, but the steering wheel was vibrating as well. And there are times at which it also won't let you change lanes. I've now activated my smart cruise control and my active steering, that's active. It also has a Q function. And the Q function is allowing the car to speed up and slow down without me touching it. All the while, the steering is keeping me centered in the lane, which I think is kind of amazing. I'll get back to you once we're out of the tunnel. Our fuel consumption is approaching 10 litres per 100 kilometres. That's not too bad for a car this size. I'd like to see it a little bit less, and on the highway it is less, much less. The 8-speed auto tries to get to top gear as quickly as possible. The ride, as I said, is smooth most of the time, though I do feel that it gets a little bit choppy. If you meet a bump in the middle of a corner, it is quite stiff. Through the week, we've put it through various tests, including David borrowing it for a family weekend. The cabin is fairly quiet too. There's something interesting about Palisade too. Although it is new to Australia, it is not new to Hyundai. And because Palisade is halfway through its product cycle, there's probably a few things that it's missing. But it's a pleasure to drive. It feels so light. It doesn't feel like it weighs over 2,000 kilos. I like the heads-up display. I wouldn't mind the digital display that we saw, the other 10.25-inch screen that we saw in Genesis last week. That'd be very nice, thank you very much. They've tried to make all of the surfaces soft, And in the main they have, but that's still quite hard. I love the look. And on these 20-inch wheels, I think it looks pretty spectacular. There's a good warranty and Hyundai reliability. I'd buy this with my own money if I needed a big SUV. Why not? That's it for Palisade. I like this a lot. As always, if you've liked the film, leave a comment, hit like, but most importantly, don't forget just there to subscribe.